Properties of real numbers. Our objective is to identify and use properties of real numbers. Why learn this? You can use properties of real numbers to quickly calculate tips in your head. Let's look at a few properties of real numbers. These are identities and inverses. The additive identity property. The sum of a number and zero. The additive identity is the original number. So like 3 plus 0 is 3, or n plus 0 is n. The multiplicative identity property is the product of a number and 1. The multiplicative identity is the original number. So notice, for identity, your answer is your original number. So to do that with multiplication, you use 1. To do that with addition, you use 0. So 2/3 times 1 is still 2/3. Now let's look at the inverse properties. So you have the additive inverse property. The sum of a number and its opposite, or additive inverse, is 0. So 5 plus -5 equals 0. For the multiplicative inverse property, the product of a non-zero number and its reciprocal, or multiplicative inverse, is 1. So 8 times 1/8 is 1. Let's practice. Find the additive and multiplicative inverses of each number. So for -9, we'll start with our additive inverse. So what would we add to -9 to make it 0? Well, -9 plus 9 equals 0. Here, I'll rewrite that one there so you can see it a little better. -9 plus +9. There we go. Equals 0. So there's your additive inverse. Now you need your multiplicative inverse. So we've got -9 times -1/9. Because that's going to give us 1. So your additive inverse is 0, your multiplicative inverse is 1. And the only way to get 1 is to multiply it by the reciprocal. Alright, take a moment and pause the video and try B. When you return, the answer will be revealed. So you have 4/5 plus -4/5, that's going to give you 0. And then if you do 4/5 times 5/4, that gives you 1. So your additive and your multiplicative inverse. Let's look at some more properties of real numbers. The closure property. The sum or product of any two real numbers is a real number. So 2 plus 3 is 5. The sum or product of any two real numbers is real. So 2 and 3 and 5 are all real. 2 and 3 and 6 are still all real. The commutative property. This one should sound familiar. You can add or multiply real numbers in any order without changing the result. So 7 plus 11 is the same thing as 11 plus 7. The associative property is the sum or product of 3 or more real numbers is the same regardless of the way the numbers are grouped. So 5 plus 3 plus 7 is still equal to 5 plus the quantity 3 plus 7. Or if you did it with multiplication, the quantity 5 times 3 times 7 equals 5 times the quantity 3 times 7. And the distributive property. When you multiply a sum by a number, the result is the same whether you add and then multiply or whether you multiply each term by the number and then add the products. So you can do 2 plus 8 and then multiply it by 5, or you can do 5 times 2 plus 5 times 8. Identifying properties of real numbers. So let's identify the property demonstrated. Alright, so we have 3 square roots of 3 plus 5 times 2. And then we have 3 square roots of 3 times 2 plus 5 times 2. Which property was used? That's right, the distributive property. All right, let's try the next one. We have the quantity 3 plus 6 plus negative 6 equals 3 plus the quantity of 6 plus negative 6. Well, you're changing the way things are grouped, so therefore it's the associative property, in this case addition, because you're adding. It would be property of multiplication if you were multiplying. Well, how can we use this for tips? Use mental math to find a 15% tip for the bill shown. Well, you can break up 15%, so why don't we start with that? So think of it this way. 15% is like 10% and 5% added together. It's really easy to calculate 10%. So you can utilize that piece to help you with the 5%. So we want 10% plus 5% of $24.80. So we're going to start with our 10%. So 10% of $24.80 is, move the decimal one place, $2.48. Well, 5% is half of 10%. So if you take half of that, you'll have your 5%. So half of $2.48 is $1.24. And now we can simply add those together. $2.48 plus $1.24 equals $3.72. So, a 15% tip for a meal that was totaled to be $24.80 is $3.72. As a recap, 15% you can break that up into 10 and 5. Then you can use the distributive property, so 10% of the $24.80 and then do 5% of the $24.80. So start with your 10% since that's the easier one, since all you have to do is move the decimal. Then take half of that to get your 5%. When you're all done, add your 10% and your 5% together, and that will give you your total. 10 and 5 make 15, so 15% is $3.72. Let's try classifying statements as sometimes, always, or never true. Think of your properties. C plus D equals C when D equals 2. Can you think of any time where you can add D, or the number, or 2, to any value on only one side of the equation? And will it be if you can think of one of them, then it's sometimes. If every single time you come up with something, it works, then it's always. If it never works, then it's never true. Well, in this case, it is never true. 1 plus 2 does not equal 1. And no matter what number you put in for C, that's not going to change this. That's why when you add, or when you're solving equations, whatever you add to one side of the equation, you must add to the other. It's to keep things balanced. Alright, let's try B. You have A minus C equals C minus A. Well, this one's sometimes true. A true example, well, if you had 5 minus 5, it has to equal 5 minus 5. However, if your numbers were different, it's not going to work out. 5 minus 2 does not equal 2 minus 5. So you can only state that it's sometimes true, not always true for every scenario. And that ends our lesson on properties of real numbers.